Semiconductors, better known as chips, is a product that we depend on in everything in our normal life. From intelligent dishwashers, cooking robots, cell phones, smart TVs and cars to precise weapons in the Ukraine war. The shortage is only growing as the demand will skyrocket in the coming years. The chips are made in factories which are called fabs, and worldwide the industry is mainly based in the US, Japan, South Korea, Europe and China. The players are market leader TSMC from Taiwan, big producers Intel from the US and Samsung from South Korea. You can divide the market in high, mid and low-end products. The semiconductors industry depends on other companies to build the machines who make the chips, and there is now a monopolist in this market. Dutch-based ASML, which make the best machine in the world.
To understand why the success of a giant like Intel hinges on ASML, let's take a look at how EUV lithography revolutionized chip making.
When you start breaking down what does it take to make an EUV lithography machine, it's sort of Nobel Prize winning in terms of the engineering involved.
Chips are made from silicon, an abundant element found in rocks and sand that's purified, melted down, then sliced into circular wafers, the surface on which chips are built in a grid formation. Each wafer can have dozens of thin layers, making up billions of transistors that determine what the chips can do. These layers are printed using lithography. Extremely precise rays of light are projected through a mask of the chip design. When the light hits the surface of the wafers, which have been coated with photoresist chemicals, it prints the minuscule designs on each layer at extremely high volumes.
If you think of a typical processor chip in an iPhone, for example, will have over 10 billion transistors on a chip, and Apple will sell 100 million or more iPhones for each model that's rolled out. So you're already talking in numbers that are far bigger than you or I remember how to pronounce.
As the wavelength of the light source in making chips gets narrower and narrower, it gives us the ability to make chips with smaller features, which means the chip is faster, the chip can be smaller, the power consumption of the chip can be lower.
The smallest transistors are more than 10,000 times thinner than a human hair. The designs have gotten so small, ASML had to develop new methods of printing at the very edge of known physics. With the help of customer investments and a consortium of scientists, ASML figured out a way to create large amounts of extreme ultraviolet light, with a wavelength so short it's not only invisible to the human eye, it's absorbed by all natural substances, even air. So the entire process has to happen in a vacuum, a first for lithography. At 13.5 nanometers, ASML's EUV wavelength is the size of just 5 DNA strands laid side by side. The previous generation machines used deep ultraviolet light, or DUV, with a wavelength of 193 nanometers. The vast majority of ASML's business, 268 of the 309 machines sold in 2021, still use DUV technology, which is used to print the less advanced chips, which are in shortest supply.
DUV is for anything that is low technology, like a toaster or a refrigerator, or even some of the electronics in your car. Today's iPhone 13 is EUV.
Both DUV and EUV lithography is so advanced it requires precision down to the atom.
This is an EUV cabin of our clean room, which is 10,000 times cleaner than the outside air. We're wearing these clothing not to protect ourselves from the environment, but we're protecting the machine from the contamination that's created by us.
This tiny thread may look like the strand of a spider web, but it's actually molten tin being shot out at a pressure of 4,000 psi, and it's how the EUV light is created.
This is continuous tin. It never, ever stops.
The tin is streaming through a perfectly calibrated nozzle which we saw being built in San Diego at a rate of 50,000 droplets per second. A 30 kilowatt carbon dioxide laser hits each droplet twice per second, vaporizing them into plasma. These tiny explosions are what emit photons of EUV light. A huge number of tin explosions need to happen because only about 5% of the photons reach the actual wafer. The light particles are so short they get absorbed by mirrors, the typical method used to precisely aim light through a lens. So ASML partnered with German optics company Zeiss, which makes the flattest surface in the world.
The flatness is really just incredible. If you took a mirror element that is maybe this big and you blew it up to the size of the country that we're in, The biggest bump would only be about 1 millimeter across the entire surface of a mirror the size of this country.
EUV light bounces off these groundbreaking Zeiss mirrors until it hits photoresist chemicals on the surface of the silicon wafer to print minuscule designs that make up the chips. The aim needs to be so precise, TSMC says it's equivalent to shining a laser from the moon to hit a coin on the Earth.
So your tin is inside a reservoir here, and then you're firing out this way.
Pete Mayall has been running this clean room for 6 years.
If any kind of defect particle whatsoever is even on the tip of that capillary, it's a fail. We'll remove and start all over again.
And the speed and scale at which this has to happen is staggering. ASML says an EUV machine churns out about 3,000 wafers a day. There can be hundreds of chips on a 300mm wafer, and up to 10 billion transistors per chip.
Moore's law expects that about every 2 years the capacity doubles and the cost halves in the chip production industry. ASML made another breakthrough with a new technology called High-NA EUV. As explained in the video, the technology which makes the Internet of Things is called DUV, and this technology compares to EUV and High-NA EUV as the highest building in the world stands to the Tower of Pisa as to the largest man in the world. To face the problem of chip shortage, worldwide countries are investing high amounts of money to attract the industry to build new chip factories with CHIPS Acts, which offer high compensations for investments. This is important as the investments per factory is in the billions and it takes 3 to 5 years to start production. Especially the US is successful in attracting the industry. The production is now disturbed furthermore as the US put pressure on the monopolist ASML to stop delivery of EUV and High-NA EUV machines to Chinese clients, making it harder for the Chinese to catch up in this game and making sure that the West and its allies keep ahead in this technology war race.